Who do you trust? According to the CEO of one of the world's largest public relations firms, Americans don't trust much of anybody at all. And as Washington Examiner Selena Zito wrote on Monday, that's a problem. I'm Steve Green with Bill Whittle and Scott Ott, and this is the right angle on what might be the most serious story of our time. That's no exaggeration, as you see in a few minutes. Let me read to you from Selena's column real quick. She wrote, Edelman's firm has been conducting the Trust Barometer survey for 17 years. Last year, the bottom dropped out, and he is not quite sure how that tangible connection people have with institutions and expertise can be restored. She goes on, only 43% of people said they trust the media, a whopping 5% drop from last year. Government came in even lower at 41%. Trust in the military has grown, and trust in business is a bit stronger than media and government, but not by much. And as readers at Instapundit reminded me, those trust numbers for media and government seem awfully high. I mean, everybody who's been paying attention knows that trust in government and the mainstream media has been in decline for 40 years or longer. Trust in this incestuous, webby glob that I like to call the media government complex. But I was surprised to see the media, or that American businesses are losing faith with American people with all the amazing products and services they provide. But, Scott, when our most famous brands, our most recognizable brands like Apple, Google, Facebook, Twitter, even the NFL, when they're seen playing the social justice game or actively putting their thumbs on the scale of what is real news and what is fake, and then you've got bailed out banks and government motors and all the rest, I mean, I shouldn't have been surprised, should I?
No, I suppose not. I mean, it was kind of, you make me think about the engagement of business in politics for no good reason, of all the journalists who were constantly asking the contestants in the Super Bowl before the game, well, what do you think of Donald Trump? What do you think, and instead of saying, hey, what do you think of that running back on the other side? Are you going to be able to stop him? That kind of thing. We have become so hyper political that I think that fosters an atmosphere of distrust as well. But I think that the recipe for curing this is rather simple. And I think it is, anybody who says, trust me, should not be trusted. Because if you're saying, believe me, then people are like, well, why would I not believe you? Are you not telling me the truth? And so I think it's a simple matter of being honest with people, being honest about your faults, your strengths and your weaknesses, being honest about what lies ahead, being honest about what's happened in the past, and not trying to constantly manipulate people into adopting something that is for your benefit and not for theirs. I mean, there is a certain ring to that phrase, we hold these truths to be self-evident. There is something about truth that is self-evident. And so when, I don't know if you've had this experience where you heard somebody say something that you've never heard before and you knew it was true. You didn't have to have the evidence in front of you. You just knew by the very nature of it that it was true. And now I'm assuming that did not involve tinfoil hats or black helicopters. But, it's
happens a lot on this show, Scott.
There are some things that are just obvious because they resonate in the bones of every human being. And I think if businesses and politicians and the chattering class would all, sort of get right with God and just tell the truth, then I think you'd see this credibility gap go away.
Yes.
Just real quick, it's called the ring of truth,
Yeah.
The ring of truth. It had the ring of truth to it. It sounded like a bell. It had a clarity and consistency that just made you believe it was real.
And it's one of those expressions that I think its meaning gets lost because it's just become an expression, and we forgot that it is supposed to ring out in that way. Bill, that brings me to you. You've written and spoken before about the difference between high trust and low trust societies. What happens when trust breaks down, and who wins in that scenario?
What a remarkable coincidence. I just, a few days ago, started reading Victor Davis Hanson's book from 2001 called Culture and Carnage, or Carnage and Culture. It's one of those two. And in the book, he looks at a number of battles, 10 battles or something, that basically pitted Western thought, Western armies against Eastern armies. Some were victories, some were a little bit of defeats, but it looked at the difference between Western and Eastern militaries. And the one consistent variable that has allowed the West to become so successful is the degree of trust among the armies of the West. It is not at all uncommon for Western soldiers, for privates to be able to have a solution. It's not uncommon for a sergeant to call in an airstrike. I remember Stephen Denbest, the great lamented Stephen Denbest, said, "We're going to win this war because in our army, a sergeant can call in an airstrike, and in the Iraqi army, you have to be Saddam to call in an airstrike." So the sense of trust is very powerful economically. It's very powerful militarily. Just because I can't resist the story, my father loved to tell me about the fact that American lieutenants, second lieutenants like him, 18, 19-year-old kids with a butter bar on or something, would look out there, and they had a squad with them or a platoon, and basically said, "I think we can take that town." And they went and took it. The German officers had to wait for approval and permission. Americans just did it. So there's that. And economically, trust is what allows this. One of the first things I ever wrote, Steve, was called The Web of Trust. And it basically talked about all of the things that come together. It's a little bit like iPencil. But we function as well as we do as a society because we trust things. I trust that you guys are going to be here every Tuesday, and you trust that the check is going to arrive. I never made any guarantees about it clearing, but it will arrive. And this may sound like such a simple thing, but it's not. It is in fact the essence of this society. In Russia, which I know from my Russian fiance, things are not like this. The police pull you over, and then it's a question of how much money it will take for you not to lose your license for 5 years. There's been a dispute with her mother about some property, and they were going to hire a lawyer, and then they realized, no, the smart play would be to save the money for the courts so that you can pay the judiciary to get the document that you want. You cannot build a complex society successfully on that kind of shaky foundation. Trust is the element that keeps us so far advanced. And trust, finally, just to close, trust is the best kind of trust is the personal trust between two individuals who've met and shaken hands, and you get to take a little bit of the measure of that person. And if he says he's going to be there on Friday with a load full of lumber and build an extension on your house, then you expect him to be there, and when you pay him, he expects the check to be good.
Wow. If you want another great example of what Bill was talking about in the military sphere, pick up Shattered Sword, the true story of the Battle of Midway. I just finished rereading it. It's just an amazing book. All right, folks, as Selena Zito asked in her column, the question is why? And, well, maybe I have an answer for you. Look around at all the things the federal government does that it really has no business doing, telling family bakers what kind of wedding cake they must make, saying who can use which bathroom, telling us what kind of insurance we must buy and that we have to buy it. The list goes on and on. And then I want you to look at your last pay stub. Look at how much was taken away before you even got to deposit that check. And then look around you. Look at our crappy highways. Look at our antiquated airports, our porous borders, our broken health coverage system, our shameful treatment of our veterans. In fact, look at our military, the world's finest and most expensive, and yet we haven't won a real war since my grandfathers were young men. And then there's a report just this week that almost 2/3 of the Navy's F-18 strike planes are grounded, unable to fly due to maintenance issues or a lack of spare parts. That's what we're getting for our money. So in short, Americans get far more government than we need, but far less government than we actually pay for. And that is a conclusion you can trust. You can also trust the paying members of BillWhittle.com for making the show possible. We'd love to have you on board too. So if you trust us to keep giving you great content, please consider joining and helping us spread our message of liberty. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.